makes comments, we'll be opening up to questions from the press at first, and questions of Mr. Brooks or any of the staff members. We would appreciate those. With that, Mr. Brooks, if you would, please.
Thank you so much, Mayor Bowers. We'll move the microphones here. So for the press who are here, the microphone's now close enough to pick this up? All good? Okay. Mayor Bowers, I want to thank you very much for welcoming the Environmental Protection Agency, Region 7, here to the community of Bridgeton. Joining me is our Acting Deputy Public Affairs Director, Mary Peterson. And what I wanted to do here today is to describe why the Environmental Protection Agency is here in Bridgeton and what we will be doing. Mayor Bowers invited this agency into this community. You've asked for our scientific help, and you've promised the City of Bridgeton's complete cooperation. Today, here in the Bridgeton City Hall, the Environmental Protection Agency is accepting the Mayor's request, and we're going to help Bridgeton meet its needs to inform and protect its residents, its guests, and its employees and volunteers. This city deserves EPA's best, and so Region 7, working with our agency colleagues across the Mississippi River from Region 5, will deliver what this agency does best: gather accurate scientific data and then communicate it promptly to inform good public health decision making. The Mayor's duty to protect his neighbors and the residents of Bridgeton and his responsibility to keep them informed matches EPA's duty to use our scientific expertise on behalf of public health protection. That duty is at the core of this agency's work under the Superfund law, and it's at the core of all the work that we do on behalf of communities here in the Heartland. EPA's scientific expertise will go to work to assess if the Bridgeton Municipal Athletic Complex, which everybody here and everybody in Bridgeton calls BMAC, and I'm going to call it BMAC for the rest of the conversation here, remains ready for use, as all previously validated scientific data has indicated. This complex is used every week by thousands of ball players, baseball players, softball players, and soccer players throughout the St. Louis metro area. Hundreds of hardworking staff and volunteers operate one of the Heartland's premier sports complexes. So here's how EPA's trained, qualified technical staff will use our agency's specialized equipment in Bridgeton. And here's what our professionals and their equipment, supported by independent laboratory specialists using accepted scientific methods and practices, will tell this community. EPA's experts will conduct a scientifically developed radiation screening program at BMAC starting the week of May 19. This agency will deploy a team of personnel and equipment to screen the complex, its fields, its dugouts, and its recreational areas from fence line to fence line for evidence of radioactive contamination linked to the Westlake Superfund site. They'll work on a schedule to minimize disruptions to the complex's busy calendar. That was very important for the complex staff to know that. They'll follow procedures designed to keep city staff and complex volunteers and ball players and their families a safe distance from our equipment as it operates. And this EPA team will use radiation detecting instruments to search for evidence of gamma radiation. The screening program should take about a week to complete. But that's not a guarantee that it will be done in 1 week, but it'll take about a week to complete. EPA will share the results of this screening program as soon as the data gathered go through the kind of rigorous, scientific, technical process that the people of Bridgeton expect and deserve. Should this screening indicate a need for additional testing, it will be done. Should the screening indicate some need to restrict any of the current uses at BMAC, this agency will promptly advise the city, the mayor, Walt, John, the complex manager, of that need, and then work with the city, the county, and the state to do it efficiently and safely. I want to emphasize that neither this agency, the Environmental Protection Agency, nor EPA's federal, state, and local partners has any credible information of radioactive contamination at BMAC. I want to emphasize that all the testing and sampling and analysis done so far in Bridgeton, including around BMAC, has never found credible evidence of radioactive contamination, linked to the materials disposed of that are this agency's responsibility at the Westlake Landfill Superfund site. None of those have been found beyond the borders of that site. So why is this agency coming to Bridgeton and coming to BMAC? It's to help the city of Bridgeton and the state of Missouri carry out their highest responsibility to protect the health and the safety of the folks who live and work and play in this community. And it's to address claims recently made, claims supported by no scientifically credible evidence that BMAC is somehow unsuitable for use, and to do what this agency's professional and technical scientific staff does best. And that is work in partnership with the city, the state, and the county to reassure folks who live and play and work around BMAC that they can keep doing it, just as they have done for the past 42 years. All validated data available to this agency, to our federal, state, and local partners, support continued use of BMAC. Nevertheless, in carrying out this agency's responsibilities under the Superfund law, I have decided that EPA should do this screening program in the interests of resolving public concern caused by folks using donated radiation equipment. This message has come to me from Attorney General Koster, it's come to me from the congressional delegation representing Metro St. Louis, and even from concerned folks who live in this area. Only the Environmental Protection Agency, only the EPA has the scientific credibility and the technical resources available to assess the uncertainty caused by non-scientific claims, unscientific information, and well-meaning but frankly untrained folks operating this donated equipment. My decision to screen the BMAC complex reflects this agency's commitment to ensure the scientific integrity of information needed by governments and by the public to make sound, smart public health protection decisions.
Yes, I did.
This agency has to balance a lot of competing demands every single day. In St. Louis, sure. Around Westlake, absolutely. But also all across the four-state region that makes up Region 7. Our region stretches from the Boot Heel of Missouri to the edge of the Rocky Mountains in western Nebraska. We have to make these judgment calls every single day. What tips the balance in this case toward conducting the radiation screening program at BMAC is this agency's responsibility to protect public health using validated scientific inquiry methods and exacting engineering specifications. That's this agency's responsibility. That's what we intend to carry out in partnership with the city of Bridgeton, beginning on the week of May 19th. At this point now, Mayor Bowers, if there are questions from the press between EPA and the city, we'll do our best to answer those. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Carl. The press, if you raise your hand and when you're recognized, if you would ask your question, indicate the individual you want to direct the question to. So, questions from the press, please.
Question, Mr. Brooks. You made a couple references to the tests that were done by the citizens group on scientific, untrained. What do you think of the numbers that they found? Apart from whether or not they're trained, is there anything that, if you just give their protocols benefit of the doubt, is there anything in the numbers of the supposedly hot area on the ballpark field, the parking lot, that you can comment on? What do you think of the numbers?
Kevin, the really critical point to make here about this information is that it's just that. It's information. Of course, American citizens have the right to be concerned. Of course, they have the right to do this kind of work. Absolutely, they have the right to do that. But the information generated did not follow any of the accepted scientific or engineering protocols that governments, including the EPA, but also other governments, use to make decisions about radiation screening. That's why this information is just that. It's information, but it's not the kind of scientifically valid radiation screening devices that this agency is using, and which, by the way, are outside here so that folks can take a look at those. And it didn't follow the kinds of quality assurance procedures that have to happen to make sure that this data is valid. That's what EPA will be delivering, is scientifically valid data. We'll deliver it as accurately and as promptly as we can, and we'll follow the kinds of procedures that have to take place when you're doing this kind of testing.
And, just one more quick final question for me. Chris Koster had asked that you do testing on BMAC and on the all routes? Are you gonna go so far as to do all?
It's about a 70-acre complex. That's one of the reasons that we'll be using the ATV that's out there in the parking lot, and then the radioactive monitor that's out there. It goes by the acronym RAT, Radiation Assessment Tool, so that the operators who are trained to use this equipment will be following a gridded pattern that will be developed by agency specialists who do this kind of screening, and they will work that complex to make sure that all of the fields and the play areas and the concession areas have been screened that way. There will also be samples taken along the way to make sure to check the radiation screening that's coming off of that device. Those samples will be analyzed at a laboratory. It's an independent scientific laboratory. It supports this agency's operations around the country. It follows known, accepted scientific procedures for handling those kinds of samples.
Is it both soil and water?
If I could, I just wanted to clarify one point that Dr. Brooks made. The RAT stands for Rapid Assessment Tool.
There we go.
And what it is, it's a software program essentially that helps integrate the gamma radiation readings from the radiation detectors that are using, and it couples that information with GPS unit so that you get it locational. And so the Rapid Assessment Tool is software that integrates those two pieces of information.
It's the brains of the tool, so to speak.
Please, sir.
So are you all going on record saying that the test results commissioned by STL Moms are not accurate?
Without knowing more about the procedures that were followed, the training of the people who use the equipment, the calibration of the equipment, the way that the samples were transmitted to the lab, and the procedures followed by the lab, that information is just that. It's information. It's not scientifically valid, credible data.
Was it not provided by the citizens group, the protocol they used?
The information that's been provided to this agency, and I think to a variety of other local and state governments, does not contain the kinds of quality assurance material and scientific protocols that permit the agency to use that as scientifically valid data. It is information, but it's not scientifically valid data, and it's not the kind of information that public health decisions have to be made by the city or by this agency or by the state of Missouri. That's the purpose for EPA coming in.
Do you think this is causing perhaps undue concern, or would you prefer that citizens groups not conduct these tests?
Like I said earlier, they think they need to do in order to inform themselves about the safety of their neighborhoods. Absolutely. That is, I'm not sure it's in the Constitution, but it should be. What this agency does is different from that. What we do is we provide accurate scientific data gathered by people who are trained to use the equipment that they're using, following procedures that are developed by this agency and other scientific agencies, because that's the kind of information that we, the city of Bridgeton, county of St. Louis, and state of Missouri need.
Would you prefer they not do it?
The folks who do any kind of work in their community, I tip my cap to them. They care about their community, they care about their safety and health and families. It's not, though, the kind of information that this agency or the city or the state need to make public health decisions.
Yes, sir.
So what about the field? Is the state open between now and the time those tests are completed?
Again, the question is if the field will stay open. They will stay open. The information that we have from the EPA, from the Department of Natural Resources, indicate there is no health hazard. There's no credible evidence to shut anything down. In fact, the study that was done by a lab, I think it's the Boston Chemical Corporation, they made the statement to the Post, it's quoted, the test results do not indicate a health threat. Not indicated. So yes, to answer your question, BMAC is open, it will remain open, and I think if a parent has a concern about their children, they should do what is right for their family. They should. I myself, I'm down there. I took my granddaughter down there. I have no concerns, but I respect other people in their decision for what's in the best interest of their family. Again, there is no credible evidence at this time to even think about closing BHAC. Further questions from the press? Yes, sir.
Don't provide an opportunity for a peace of mind to clarify that there's nothing that issue there.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question, sir.
Does this testing provide an opportunity for peace of mind to clarify that there's not a problem?
Well, yes, because of the interest, I am so pleased again. We've had several discussions, the administrator, staff, and myself, with the EPA. And I am so pleased that they have agreed to take this extra step, I think, this step to reassure this community, to reassure the citizens that there is not a health hazard at BHAC. Other questions from the press?
Just to follow up on Mr. Brooks, by the way, are you mic or is he mic? Who's got the mic?
Which is yours, Kevin?
They stand between us. Now they're leaning closer to me.
Mayor Bowers has made several references to his confidence in past tests that were done that showed the ball fields are safe. How recent are those? And are they reliable if these moms are claiming some of the hits they're getting might be from water runoff, which could come change every rainfall?
The testing that's been done over the last 10 to 15 years in the area of BMAC has been done both by the Missouri Department of Natural Resources over the last year during 2013. There was extensive sampling done by the United States Army Corps of Engineers, mostly in the early part of the 2000s as part of its FOOSRAP. Many of the people in the room know what FOOSRAP is, as part of its FOOSRAP remediation responsibilities. Again, all of that data generated by the state as well as by the Army Corps of Engineers and its contractors established that there is no credible scientific information that radioactive contamination from the Westlake landfill site is present at BMAC.
Other questions from the press? Did you
My
from the
first
press?
part closes back.
Please.
Mayor, why do you order these tests sooner before
I hate-
the residents did these testing and before this time was?
Okay, your name again?
Wyatt Bernhard posted
Yes,
that.
okay, I've read your articles, of course. I'm not demanding, it's not, Bridgeton has no actual jurisdiction. No actual jurisdiction, no control over the land. We have, all we can do is request, okay? Does that answer your question?
Well, why didn't you request it earlier when the residents first?
Because we were going on the results of the prior test. Again, I think Dr. Brooks did an outstanding job of talking about prior tests. He's been quoted, or at least has put the EPA on record on several occasions, indicating there is no health threat.
I have a follow-up question.
Yes, ma'am.
Given the fact that the last test was some years ago, a fire, a smoldering event is occurring, things are changing. Is it possible that those recent developments could have impacted the way radioactive material could have been impacted?
Okay, that's a very valid question. In fact, I like it because I, as a layperson, I'm an engineer, but a layperson. And you have so many people, it's a valid question. I don't have the expertise, and I recognize that. Even as an engineer and all, I don't have that expertise, and Dr. Brooks, if you like to respond.
At the present time, the scientific evidence that's available to the Environmental Protection Agency, as well as to the Missouri Department of Natural Resources, establishes that contamination that's this agency's responsibility over at Westlake remains at Westlake. And just to repeat the point that the mayor has made, there is not now any scientifically credible information establishing the presence of radioactive contamination from the Westlake site, even with all the things that you've described going on at BMAC. We will know more once the radiation screening program is completed and once the data has been quality controlled and independently analyzed and subjected to the kind of, I hate to say this, rigorous scrutiny. That's what scientific data is. It gets cross-checked and rechecked by people whose business it is to get it right. We'll certainly know more after this program is completed. But at the present time, there is no credible scientific evidence of contamination linked to the Westlake Superfund site over at BMAC.
Other questions from the press? Again, I'd like to, on behalf of the city of Bridgeton, express appreciation to the EPA, Dr. Brooks, for agreeing to come in and to perform this, because I think we all want to know, and this is an ongoing, after all, Westlake has probably been there for 40 years. This is an ongoing situation, and we need to keep up with it, but again, we really appreciate the effort by the EPA.
Thank you, Mayor Bowers. Thank you very much for hosting this event. Thank you for inviting the Environmental Protection Agency to do what this agency does best. And that is gather scientific evidence to make smart public policy decisions that protect people's health, as we have been at the Westlake landfill site.
Dr. Brooks, we talked all about the smoldering. Just to pull the camera back a little bit, can you update us on the timetable for digging the fire break trench and just your summer plans for
Sure. At this point now, even this week, a variety of air monitoring stations maintained by the Environmental Protection Agency are being powered up. They're distributed around the Westlake complex so that we can gather air monitoring information to get background information. First, you need to establish background, what's in the atmosphere right now or on the soil or anyplace else. Those will be in place by the time then the pre-construction activities start. It is this agency's sincere hope that pre-construction activities are beginning in the early part of the summer. That could be as early as the latter part of May or early June. We are, with the help of the Army Corps of Engineers, which is now serving as EPA's technical advisor, both staff out of the St. Louis District and the Kansas City District, are advising the Environmental Protection Agency about the location of the barrier, about the testing that needs to support that location to verify the line, and the kind of design that will be used to construct it. That work is moving ahead. It's moving ahead fairly well. I'm not in a position to say it will be done by X date and dirt will start moving on Y date, but there will be activity visible at the site, and this air monitoring equipment will be stood up quite soon. It'll complement what the Missouri DNR has been doing for the last year, but expand the reach and expand the area that's monitored.
Last question, do you have enough time to put in that trench before the fire crosses the line where the nuclear waste is?
All the evidence available, every bit of evidence collected by the Department of Natural Resources, which is responsible for the controls on that subsurface event at the Bridgeton site of the complex, all that data has been provided to EPA. Both DNR and EPA are of the view that that event is in roughly the same place as it has been for a long time, so there will be time for this agency to direct the responsible parties to get that barrier in.
Last question, Dr. Brooks, how long will it take for the analysis on whatever you are picking up out of feedback?
Best estimates on that would be 30 days in order to complete the independent lab analysis. It could be up to 45 depending on the material that's provided. There will be information, though, available earlier than that if there's some indication that something has been found that's not expected. But the lab work takes, and again, science doesn't move at soundbite speed. I know that's really frustrating to my friends in the press. It does not move at soundbite speed, but that's why it's science and not information and not argument. We'll work as well as we can with that laboratory to have that work done. I'm told by the folks who work with the labs, it's about a 30 to 45 day process to complete the cross-check and the quality analysis. We will be in touch with Mayor Bowers, and we'll be in touch with folks here in the Bridgeton area, both directly and through the media as this work goes ahead.
Will there be any alpha and beta testing as well? And will there be any testing outside of BMAC, nearby farms or residences or businesses?
The RAT tool is designed to detect gamma. That's a significant signal that there may be something present in the area. It's not designed to detect alpha and beta. And EPA's screening program that we've just discussed here today will be within the BMAC complex, fence to fence within the BMAC complex.
Again, Dr. Brooks, we certainly appreciate this. We appreciate the people coming today. We have knowledge.
If they're going to do a grid at BMAC, why can't they do a grid at the landfill?
Thanks again.
Do it. If they're going